Padre Pio once warned that some of the deepest wounds in families do not come from arguments, betrayal, or even sickness. They come from hands you cannot see, forces you cannot name, and shadows that strike when the lights go out. What if the conflict in your house, the restless nights, and the sudden storms of anger are not just human weakness but signs of a battle being fought over your soul? Padre Pio knew that not all battles are fought on the ground. Some erupt in silence, in bedrooms, in dreams, in the sighs of mothers who cry themselves to sleep without knowing why the air feels so heavy. He understood that the greatest mistake anyone could make is pretending this invisible war does not exist. Imagine a woman kneeling in her room late at night. She has prayed for her children's safety, but she still feels a coldness in the house. She cannot explain the nightmares that torment her family. She lights a small candle, whispers a prayer, and yet something lingers. Padre Pio faced that same oppressive weight, but he discovered a shield so powerful that even the darkest forces trembled. That shield was not crafted by human hands. It was forged in heaven and placed under the command of one name, Saint Michael the Archangel. The truth is, demons never sleep. While you rest, they plot. While you close your eyes, they circle. And if you think your strength is enough, you have already lost. Padre Pio never trusted his own strength. He leaned on Saint Michael because he knew the Archangel was appointed by God himself to lead the heavenly armies. That prayer, "Defend us in battle," is not poetry. It is a decree that shakes the gates of hell. Without it, you may survive a night. With it, you invite heaven to guard your family. Declare this right now. Saint Michael, protect my home. Write it, speak it, say it out loud, even if your voice shakes. Every time you release those words, you are not begging, you are commanding. Heaven listens to courage, not to fear. Padre Pio believed that when you name Saint Michael, you open the door for an army to march into your living room. The forces of darkness cannot cross a threshold guarded by the general of heaven's hosts. But why would a holy man like Padre Pio, who carried the wounds of Christ and lived in constant prayer, still call on Saint Michael? If anyone could stand alone, surely it was him. Yet Padre Pio knew a secret the world tries to ignore. No one fights these battles alone, not even the saints. The enemy does not fear your rituals. He does not tremble at your schedules. He fears only the presence of God and the warriors sent by him. That is why Padre Pio never entered a fight without Saint Michael standing at his side. Picture this, a storm outside, candles flickering in the monastery. Padre Pio kneels whispering, "Saint Michael, defend us in battle." His body carries wounds inflicted by unseen forces, yet his spirit refuses to bend. He is not speaking to an idea, he is summoning a warrior. He is commanding a shield to cover the souls entrusted to him. That is why thousands sought his prayers, because they knew when Padre Pio prayed, the archangels moved. And what about you? Do you dare to go through another night without calling on Saint Michael? Do you dare to face your struggles without the same shield Padre Pio trusted? The cost of silence is too high. Families crumble when they ignore this war. Children grow up under shadows that were never cast by human hands. Marriages collapse because of invisible pressure. But one prayer can tear down what decades of fear have built. Say it with me again. Saint Michael, protect my home. Let the words sink deep. Do not whisper them as if you are unsure. Declare them as if the roof above you depends on it, because in ways you cannot see, it does. Every declaration is a strike. Every word is a weapon. Padre Pio lived this truth until his last breath. The greatest lie of the enemy is convincing you that prayer is weak, that calling on Saint Michael is just superstition. Padre Pio proved the opposite. He bore scars from the enemy's fury. Yet he walked in victory because he never fought alone. When you declare, "Saint Michael, defend me," you are not repeating an old tradition. You are igniting a battle cry that angels recognize. They move because your words align with heaven's decree. Do not wait until disaster strikes to remember this weapon. Do not wait until the night terrors return. Speak it now. Write it in the comments. Share it with someone who needs protection tonight. These are not empty rituals. They are declarations that pull your family under heaven's covering. But here is the haunting question. If Padre Pio himself could not afford to neglect St. Michael, what will happen to you if you do? What unseen cost are you paying by walking through life unguarded? And what breakthrough could be waiting if you called on the same defender who once drove a dragon out of heaven? The answer is closer than you think, but the weight of it will not let you rest. There is a reason Padre Pio never walked into battle alone. There is a reason he whispered the same prayer even when his body was broken. And there is a reason this same prayer is reaching you now, knocking on the door of your spirit, asking you one thing: will you call or will you stay silent? Because silence has a price, and Padre Pio knew exactly what it was. Not every wound on your soul comes from what you can see. Some bruises never show on skin, yet they ache with every breath. There are nights when you lie awake, and though the room is quiet, something heavy presses against your chest. You wonder if you are imagining it, if maybe stress or exhaustion explains it away. But Padre Pio would look at you and whisper, "This is the hour when the real war begins." The most dangerous battles are the silent ones. You cannot see the claws, but you feel the scratches in your spirit. You cannot see the whispers, but you hear them as doubt in your mind, telling you you are not enough, that your prayers mean nothing. Padre Pio knew that was not coincidence. He knew the enemy always attacks when the world is dark, when no one else is watching. And he knew the only answer was not to stand in your own strength, but to summon the warrior who never loses. Saint Michael is not a distant figure from stained glass windows. He is the commander who threw a dragon out of heaven. That same power still stands at the edge of your home, waiting for an invitation. The enemy wants you to think you are alone, abandoned, too weak to fight. But when you speak, "Saint Michael, defend me," you are not whispering into the night. You are lighting a beacon that calls down heavenly fire. The devil cannot stand where Saint Michael has been invited. Padre Pio lived this truth in his own body. The nights when demonic forces struck him, leaving him bruised and bleeding, he did not hide in fear. He did not pretend the battle was not real. He called upon Saint Michael, and he felt the strength of heaven surge through his weakness. Imagine that for a moment. A man already carrying the wounds of Christ, still leaning on the archangel because he knew the war was larger than one soul could handle. If even he refused to stand alone, how much more should we cry out? Say this right now: I am defended. I am not alone. Do not just think it, speak it. Let it echo through your walls. Let it shake the silence that tries to choke your prayers. Every word you release is a sword in the unseen world. Padre Pio believed that words are not just sounds, they are weapons. When you call on Saint Michael, heaven hears and hell trembles. Can you sense it? That feeling that something has been resisting your family for years, patterns that repeat, attacks that never seem to stop. What if those are not coincidences but signs of a deeper conflict? What if the reason doors keep closing is because the enemy fears what will happen when you step fully into your calling? Padre Pio would not have left that question unanswered. He would have told you, there is an ally heaven has appointed for this very moment. And here is the truth the enemy does not want you to know. Demons are not terrified of your discipline, your plans, or your routines. They are terrified of heaven's army. They are terrified when you open your mouth and align your words with the decree of God. That is why Padre Pio never entered prayer alone. He invoked Saint Michael because he knew the battle was bigger than him. You can pretend the war is not real, but pretending does not make you safe. Calling does. Declaring does. So declare it again. Saint Michael, guard my family. Saint Michael, cover my nights. Saint Michael, fight for me. Write it down, not just in your mind, but with your hands. Type it, share it, speak it. These declarations are not suggestions, they are activations. Every time you say them, you reinforce the shield over your life. Every time you share them, you extend that shield to someone else. Think about it. How many nights have you tossed and turned thinking it was just worry? How many moments have you felt a presence you could not explain? Those are the hours when Saint Michael waits for your call. He does not force his way in. He answers when invited. That is why Padre Pio insisted on this prayer. He knew without it, families crumble under the weight of unseen pressure. With it, even the darkest hour becomes a guarded fortress. And yet, the question remains, why would God allow such battles at all? Padre Pio would say, not to destroy you, but to awaken you, to remind you that you were never meant to fight alone, to show you that your voice carries power when it calls upon heaven's general. The enemy wants silence. He thrives when you ignore him. But heaven responds to courage, to faith spoken aloud, to prayers that rise in the night. So tonight, do not stay silent. Do not assume the battle will pass you by. Stand where you are and speak. Saint Michael, defend us in battle. Let those words become the anthem of your home. Let them echo in your heart until fear has no place to rest. And as you speak, ask yourself, what could shift in your life if every night you invited heaven's defender to stand at your door? What breakthrough might be waiting if you stopped fighting alone? Padre Pio knew the answer. He carried it in his scars, in his sleepless nights, in the moments when darkness thought it had won. And every time, he rose whispering the same call, Saint Michael, defend us. That call is now in your hands. Will you release it, or will you keep it locked inside? The choice is yours, but the battle will not wait. The question is, will you? There is a story written in the heavens, a battle recorded long before you were born. In the book of Revelation, the veil is lifted and we are told of a war in heaven itself, where Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon was hurled down. That single image was burned into Padre Pio's soul. He knew it was not just a story about the past, it was a prophecy about every life under siege. If Michael defeated the dragon once, then Michael can stand at the edge of your home today, ready to drive out every shadow that dares to approach. Think about it. If an archangel was chosen to strike down the ancient serpent, do you really believe he will ignore the cries of a family pleading for protection? Padre Pio trusted this truth with his whole being. He called Saint Michael not as a symbol but as a living ally, heaven's general whose assignment never expired. And when he prayed, those around him felt a shift in the air. They knew the battlefield was real, and so was the defender. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it. Padre Pio, weary but unshaken, raising his voice in a darkened chapel. The candlelight flickers, and his lips move with a force that does not belong to a man alone. Saint Michael, defend us. His whisper is a thunderclap in the unseen realm. Chains break. Fear scatters, and the people he prays for sleep under a covering they cannot explain. This was not imagination. This was war, and war answered by heaven. Say this with me now. Saint Michael defends my family. Saint Michael guards my sleep. Let those words roll off your tongue, not like a ritual, but like a weapon. When you declare them, you align yourself with the commander of heaven's army. Do not underestimate the weight of those words. Padre Pio knew that every syllable released by faith becomes a sword. And tonight, that sword can be yours. The truth spike is this: protection is not automatic. It must be summoned. Heaven waits for a voice on earth to invite what is already promised. You cannot assume the shield is in place if you have never called for it. That is why Padre Pio insisted on this prayer. He knew silence is surrender. He knew passivity is an open door. But a bold call, Saint Michael, defend me, is a locked gate the enemy cannot force open. And do you know what terrifies the enemy the most? It is not your plans. It is not your discipline. It is not even your knowledge. What makes him tremble is when you speak the name of the one who cast him down once before. Every time you say, Saint Michael, you remind hell of its defeat. Every time you declare, defend me, you are placing your life under the banner of a victory already won. Padre Pio carried that awareness like fire in his bones. Now ask yourself, what battles in your home have gone unchallenged because you never called for the defender? What fears have been allowed to linger in your children's dreams because you thought they would just pass? What if the very breakthrough you need is waiting for one simple call? Padre Pio would not hesitate to answer. He would look you in the eye and command you to summon Saint Michael without delay. Write it now. Speak it now. Saint Michael, guard my house. Saint Michael, cover my nights. Saint Michael, protect my destiny. These are not empty repetitions. They are decrees. They are signatures in the spirit realm, contracts that darkness cannot break. Every time you say them, the covering strengthens. Every time you share them, the shield expands. Remember, Padre Pio faced attacks that could have broken any ordinary soul. Yet instead of crumbling, he leaned harder into the prayer of Saint Michael. That is why he endured. That is why he emerged with a faith unshaken. And that same weapon is available to you now. The enemy will tell you it is foolish, that it is superstition, that it is powerless. But look at the fruit. Padre Pio's life was proof. He lived defended because he prayed defended. Do not let doubt silence you. Doubt is the language of defeat. Faith is the language of victory. Faith says what it cannot see, and heaven responds. So tonight, choose faith. Choose to open your mouth and release the cry that shifts atmospheres. Say it again until it burns inside you. Saint Michael, defend us in battle. And here is the question that should linger in your mind. If the greatest of saints refused to walk alone, if even he cried out for the archangel's defense, why would you try to stand on your own? What do you risk by staying silent? And what freedom waits if you dare to call? The story of Revelation does not end in heaven. It continues in you. The dragon was cast down then, but his rage still lashes out now. And the same warrior who struck him once still answers the cries of God's people. That means the prayer of Padre Pio is not history. It is present power. It is your invitation tonight. And it will be the difference between fear ruling your nights or heaven covering them. So I ask you again, not as a suggestion but as a challenge. Will you declare it, or will you let silence have the final word? Will you call on Saint Michael, or will you leave the gate unguarded? The choice is urgent, and the war does not wait. The defender stands ready. The question is, are you willing to summon him? Rosary in his hands, Saint Michael on his lips. That was Padre Pio's pattern. It was not a ritual. It was a strategy. When the darkness pressed in, when shadows whispered and blows from the unseen left him staggering, he never fought with his own strength. He reached for the chain of beads, the weapon of the mother, and he called the name of heaven's general. Two flames converged, the rosary and the Saint Michael prayer. Together, they formed a shield that the enemy could not breach. Picture the scene, the monastery at night, silent except for the creak of old wood and the sound of his prayer. The candles flicker against the stone walls. His hands tremble, but not from fear, only from the weight of battle. And then his voice, steady and fierce. Saint Michael, defend us in battle. The words are not long, not poetic. They are sharp, like arrows. The moment they leave his lips, the air thickens with authority. What was pressing against him retreats. What sought to choke him finds no entry. That is the power he lived by. Now ask yourself, if Padre Pio needed both weapons, why would you settle for one? How many of us hold the rosary but forget to summon the archangel? How many whisper prayers but never issue decrees? The enemy does not respect half-hearted words. He flees only from voices that call on heaven's defenders. That is why Padre Pio never entered a battle with just one weapon. He fused them. He created a wall of fire around his life, and he left the blueprint for us to follow. Say it with me right now. Defend me in battle. Type it, speak it, declare it until it reverberates in your spirit. Do not mumble it like a hope. Command it like a decree. When those words echo through your home, you are not alone. The angels move. The gates of hell tremble. This is not imagination. It is activation. Think about how different your nights could be if this prayer became the rhythm of your home. Imagine your children sleeping without fear, your house wrapped in peace, your heart free from the anxiety that claws at you. That is not a dream. That is what happens when you align your prayers with the strategy heaven itself designed. Padre Pio knew the enemy could not resist a household guarded by rosary prayers fused with the call of Saint Michael. And here is a truth most ignore. The enemy does not mind if you pray softly without faith. He does not mind if you whisper without authority. But he cannot stand when you speak with conviction, when you call the General of Heaven by name. That is why Padre Pio's prayer life shook entire villages. He prayed with a force that was not his own. He prayed with heaven's army behind him. And when he called, heaven answered. Can you feel it now? The tug in your chest, the urging to open your mouth and say it louder. That is not emotion. That is the Spirit stirring you to rise. That is heaven nudging you to stop watching from the sidelines and start fighting like Padre Pio fought, armed, covered, unafraid. So declare again, defend me in battle. Do not stop at one time. Make it your anthem. Write it in the comments as your seal. Speak it in your house until every wall carries the echo. Share it so another soul can come under the same covering. This is how you multiply protection, not by holding it, but by spreading it. And think of this. How many attacks never reached you because Saint Michael stood at your door? How many accidents? How many breakdowns? How many sudden storms were deflected without you even knowing? Heaven fights battles you never see. Padre Pio trusted that reality every day. That is why he prayed even when nothing seemed wrong. He knew the absence of trouble was often the fruit of invisible protection. But there is a warning too. Padre Pio once said that the greatest tragedy is when people pray without understanding. They repeat words with their lips while their hearts remain cold. That kind of prayer does not move heaven. The Saint Michael prayer is not decoration. It is a weapon, and a weapon only works when wielded with conviction. If you recite it absent-mindedly, you hold the sword but never swing it. That is the danger he wanted us to avoid. So I ask you now, how are you praying? Are you whispering out of habit, or are you declaring with authority? Are you asking timidly, or are you commanding boldly? Padre Pio's secret was not that he knew more words. It was that he prayed them as if lives depended on it, and they did. You cannot afford to be casual in a war. The enemy does not play fair. He attacks your weakness, your sleep, your family. But heaven has not left you unarmed. You have the Rosary. You have the Saint Michael prayer. You have the authority to speak, to command, to call heaven's armies to your side. What are you waiting for? Lift your head. Open your mouth. Say it again until it burns in your chest. Saint Michael, defend me in battle. Defend my children. Defend my house. Defend my destiny. These are not empty words. They are the keys that lock your gates against the enemy. They are the hammer that shatters his plans before they can take root. And here is the haunting thought. If you stay silent, what will slip through the cracks? What could have been stopped with one decree? Padre Pio never risked it. He knew too well the cost of neglect. That is why he fought with both weapons every single day. The Rosary in one hand, the Saint Michael prayer on his lips. And because of that, countless souls found peace under his covering. You have that same choice tonight. Will you hold the weapon and let it gather dust? Or will you wield it like the warrior you are called to be? The battle is raging whether you acknowledge it or not. The only question is, will you fight with the shield heaven has already given you? Or will you leave the door wide open? The answer is not in tomorrow. It is in this very moment. Speak it, write it, share it, let it resound. Defend me in battle. That is your cry. That is your covering. That is your inheritance. And just as it was for Padre Pio, It can be the shield that carries you through every storm. Padre Pio believed that the battleground was not only the daylight hours, but the silent hours of the night, the fragile space where dreams unfold and the mind drifts into places unguarded. He warned that darkness does not respect sleep. It invades, it prowls, and the one who thinks dreams are harmless often wakes shaken, wondering why their spirit feels crushed. He knew what most ignore. The night is not empty, it is contested ground. How many times have you woken in the night with your heart racing, sweat on your skin, fear you cannot explain? How many times have your children cried out from nightmares that repeat like patterns etched into their sleep? These are not always accidents of the mind. Sometimes they are signals, sometimes they are warnings. Padre Pio recognized them as the footprints of an enemy who prefers to attack in shadows. He refused to let the night go unguarded. That is why he invoked Saint Michael over his rest. And this is the truth. When you dream of being chased, when you feel suffocated in your sleep, when terror holds you captive in the hours meant for peace, it may not be random, it may be the battle. And the one assigned to stand in that place with you is Saint Michael. But heaven's army does not force itself on anyone. The defender waits for the invitation. The archangel listens for the call. Without it, the shadows prowl unhindered. With it, the battle turns before it begins. Say this now with courage. I call Saint Michael over my dreams, my house, my children. Do not hold those words inside. Speak them with your breath. Mark your territory with your voice. When you declare it, you draw the line that darkness cannot cross. Padre Pio taught that angels respond to declarations of faith. They do not hover aimlessly, they are sent when called. That is why silence can cost you more than you realize. Think of the countless families who dismiss the strange heaviness in their homes, who explain away the night terrors of their children, who laugh off the shadows in their corners. They leave doors wide open because they never thought to call for help. But the enemy exploits every crack. He never misses a chance to torment. And yet, one prayer, one decree, one command to Saint Michael can close the gate in an instant. Padre Pio never underestimated those subtle attacks. He carried scars from invisible blows. He knew better than anyone that what happens in the night can shape the day. That is why he insisted that every believer summon the archangel over their sleep. He knew that without a guard, the mind can become a playground for the enemy. But with Saint Michael standing watch, even dreams become sanctified. Even nightmares lose their power. Pause and picture it. A child tossing in bed, caught in a nightmare. A mother enters, not knowing what to do. Her voice is small, her hands tremble. But then she remembers the name Padre Pio spoke. She kneels beside the bed and whispers, "Saint Michael, defend my child." At that moment, though unseen, the atmosphere shifts. Fear lifts, peace settles. The child breathes easily. That is not superstition. That is heaven answering a call. Do not wait until the nightmares come again. Do not wait until fear is choking you. Declare it before the night falls. Say it as you lay your head down. Saint Michael, stand at the gate of my house tonight. Say it over your children. Saint Michael, guard their dreams. Say it over your marriage. Saint Michael, protect this covenant. These words are not mere comfort. They are assignments released into the unseen. And here is a truth Padre Pio carried in his soul. Angels respect free will. They do not intrude uninvited. That is why your voice matters. That is why your command carries weight. When you summon Saint Michael, you are exercising the authority God gave you as his child. You are not begging for scraps of mercy. You are calling forth the warrior assigned to defend you. That authority is your inheritance, but only if you use it. Say it again, louder this time. I call Saint Michael over my dreams, my house, my children. Let it resonate. Let it be written not only in the air of your home, but in the depths of your spirit. Write it in the comments as a seal, a testimony, a declaration that you refuse to sleep undefended. Share it so that others may place the same shield over their homes. When you declare together, the covering multiplies. But do not miss this warning. If you stay silent, the night belongs to the enemy. Padre Pio saw too many souls suffer simply because they never called for help. He knew silence was surrender. He knew hesitation was an open door, and he could not bear to see people suffer needlessly. That is why he urged everyone he encountered to pray the St. Michael prayer. He knew it was the difference between torment and peace, between defeat and victory. Imagine the weight lifted if your nights were free from terror. Imagine waking with strength instead of exhaustion, with clarity instead of fog, with peace instead of dread. That reality is possible, but not without action. Padre Pio proved it. He lived it, and he left the path open for you. So the question remains, will you go to bed tonight without a guard at your door? Will you risk another night of shadows creeping in, hoping it will simply pass? Or will you rise with conviction and speak the words that shift everything? The choice is yours, but the battle will not wait for you. Call him now. Call him every night. Make St. Michael your ally in the hours when the world sleeps. Make him the defender of your children's dreams, the shield over your house, the warrior at your threshold. And know this, when you declare his name, the night loses its power. Fear flees, peace reigns, and you will rest under the same covering that carried Padre Pio through his fiercest battles. The invitation has been given to you. The defender is ready. What will you do with this night? Before leaving this world, Padre Pio's lips still carried the same cry. St. Michael, defend us. It was not ritual, not tradition. It was the final seal of a life spent in battle. He knew that death itself was not the end of war, only the crossing into eternity. And as he stepped into that threshold, he summoned the archangel who had walked beside him in every fight. That whisper was his last command, and it was his final gift to those who would follow. Think about that moment. A man who had carried the wounds of Christ, who had seen demons rage against him and angels surround him, used his final breath not for farewell, but for a decree. He knew the war would continue after him. He knew that every soul would need the same shield he had leaned on. And so, his last words became an inheritance. St. Michael, defend us in battle. This truth should strike you like a thunderclap. If Padre Pio's last breath was a call to St. Michael, how urgent is that prayer for your own life today? You cannot afford to treat it as optional. You cannot afford to put it aside until tomorrow. The battle does not pause, and the enemy does not retreat out of pity. Protection is not given to the silent. It is activated by those who speak. Say it right now. St. Michael, defend my family. St. Michael, defend my future. St. Michael, defend my destiny. Do not let the words remain in your mind. Release them with your breath, because each declaration is a banner raised in the spirit. When you speak it, heaven takes position around you. The unseen world responds to your voice. And do not stop at speaking. Write it in the comments as a testimony. Share it so another soul can be covered. Save it so you can return every night and repeat it until it becomes the rhythm of your heart. Padre Pio understood that a single prayer can ripple outward, breaking chains beyond the one who prays. Every time you spread it, you extend the circle of protection. But let me tell you a secret Padre Pio lived by. The enemy does not flee from half-hearted words. He flees from conviction. He flees from voices that burn with faith. When you say, St. Michael, defend me, say it as if your life depends on it, because in ways unseen, it does. Say it as if your children's safety depends on it, because in ways you may never fully know, it does. Picture a household where this decree is spoken nightly. Before bed, the family gathers, the rosary is prayed, and the final words echo, St. Michael, defend us in battle. That house is not empty, it becomes a fortress. That family does not sleep alone. They are surrounded by warriors. This is not imagination. It is the reality of heaven's covering, released by faith. And here lies the greatest truth. Fear collapses where faith speaks. Darkness retreats where light is declared. The devil trembles when he hears not your name, but the name of the one who cast him down. Every time you speak St. Michael's name, you remind him of his defeat. Every time you declare, "Defend me," you enforce the verdict heaven already delivered. So ask yourself tonight, will you leave your gates unguarded? Will you walk through your days hoping shadows will leave you alone? Or will you rise and decree with Padre Pio's fire? Silence has a cost too heavy for any family to bear, but faith spoken aloud shifts everything. Say it again with force. Saint Michael, defend my house. Saint Michael, defend my children. Saint Michael, defend my calling. Let your tongue strike like a hammer. Let your faith roar like thunder. This is not repetition, it is warfare. And every strike builds a wall that darkness cannot cross. Now imagine the chain reaction if thousands of believers raise this cry together. Imagine the shield stretching across cities, nations, generations. That is what Padre Pio envisioned when he urged everyone to pray. He knew that one voice can protect a house, but many voices can protect a people. That is why you cannot keep it to yourself. Share it, declare it, multiply it. And as you do, remember this: heaven never loses. Saint Michael never retreats. The general of God's army does not negotiate with darkness. He crushes it. He drives it out. He silences it. And that same power stands ready every time you speak his name. The only question is whether you will call. Padre Pio's life was proof, his scars the evidence, his final whisper the legacy. He has passed the weapon into your hands. You cannot drop it. You cannot delay. The war rages whether you see it or not, and your covering is only a declaration away. So tonight, lift your voice. Tonight, take the weapon. Tonight, align yourself with heaven's army. Say it without hesitation, without fear, without shame. Saint Michael, defend us in battle. Say it for your family, for your city, for your own soul. Say it until the words no longer feel borrowed, but become the anthem of your life. And as you do, expect the shift, expect the peace, expect the covering that only heaven can bring. Because the moment you declare, the defender moves. And when Saint Michael moves, no darkness can remain. The time is now. The choice is yours. Speak it, write it, share it, live it. And never forget the truth Padre Pio sealed with his last breath. No one fights alone when Saint Michael stands at their side.